Hey everyone, happy December. It's Pauline from Zilch Beauty back with another Subtl tutorial. New Year's Eve is right around the corner, and every year I've done a holiday look or a New Year's Eve look with Subtl, so we're back with another one. I'm gonna walk you through a New Year's Eve inspired look that you can maybe mimic or follow along with this New Year's Eve. So New Year's Eve, I always think sparkles when I think New Year's Eve. I think fireworks, I think light, I think bright. So we're gonna keep that in mind as we build this look. I do have a bit of foundation down. I did my skincare already, but I definitely need some concealer help. I just drove in the car for almost 12 hours yesterday, so I'm still recovering, but no fear, we have some tricks to help us here. First things first, I am gonna put a little bit of the lip balm on. I start every makeup look with myself or with the client with lip balm just to give it a minute to really sink into the lips before we put any product on top of it later in the look. Because I have my foundation down, I am gonna go in with a little bit of concealer and just brighten up my under eyes. This will probably be our first of maybe 2, potentially 3 under eye touch-ups. So I'm not gonna go too crazy right now because we will start with eyeshadow today. So typically I usually start with base and then I go into eyes for a more day-to-day look. But because we're gonna be putting a little bit more eyeshadow on than normal, when I say normal, I mean just like a normal day, I'm gonna start with the eyes and then we can clean up the under eye if we have any fallout. So you'll see that I'm just using my finger to get that down, but I am gonna go into the Subtl travel brush set and get their new flat brush. And I'm just going to buff this out so that there's no streaks. And I love applying with my finger because the warmth of your hand really can move the product around where you need it. And you can do it with a really light touch, but any lines or, streaks that come with that, the brush will be your BFF. And I did go in and just get a couple red spots. My skin is a bit dry. Again, we'll go in later and perfect, but just want to give a first kind of layer to set into the skin. Now that that's down, I'm gonna actually go back into the concealer and I'm gonna just put a little tiny bit on each eyelid because I do want to even out my skin tone before I go in with eyeshadow. I do get some redness on top of my eyes, so I love using the concealer for that. And again, I'm just gonna lightly tap any extra product into the skin. That will give me an even base to start with. When I think New Year's Eve, I think sparkles, and a lot of the Subtl, almost all of the Subtl eyeshadow duos have a sparkly side to them. So I'm going back and forth here. I want to use the sparkle in the jelly duo. I accidentally dropped mine the other day and a little bit of powder came out. Actually, you know what? Let's start with jelly, and then if I want to build it up, I'll go maybe into crush. But I like these 2 shades for New Year's Eve. I don't know what I'm wearing yet for New Year's Eve, but these are neutral enough that they could go with gold or like a silvery black. This is definitely a little on the warmer side, I would say. This leans toward more like a brown vibe. Let's start with this dual-ended brush here. I have used this recently, so I'm actually gonna take my dry brush cleaner, get whatever product was on there last off. And again, you can just rip this off, flip it over, it Velcros in, and you can wash these with soap and water, and it's like brand new. Before I go in with jelly, I'm actually gonna go in with my bronzer for a transition shade. I feel like I talk about this all the time, so I won't bore you too much. I do have a mirror in front of me, so I'm gonna just be looking up a bit. But I like a transition shade because it just helps. It just helps, especially when you're putting down a deeper shade of shadow onto the eyelid. It will help make it look more natural. It'll help with blending. I'm really just keeping this in the outer crease. I'm bringing it in a little bit and I'm just windshield wiping back and forth and kind of just zigzagging up and down in this outer third corner of my eye. I think of the eyelid in thirds. So you have this outer third, you have the middle third, and then the inner third. And because this brush is angled, I can swipe some of that product up and away from the eye, up in this kind of intentional angle, because I probably will add a little bit of eyeliner and maybe do a soft wing, and this will just help it look more natural. Now I'm gonna go into that dual eyeshadow combo, the jelly duo, and I'm gonna pick up that shade on the same brush, but I'm actually gonna take the top of my stack that has a mirror as well and just get a little closer. I'm really just gonna pack this in to that outer crease first, and then I'm going to start blending. So I'm just doing small circles and I'm kind of dispersing it mostly on the outer half of my lid. I can get a little bit of it onto the lid. We've been focusing in the crease, but let's get a little bit onto that lid. A little bit on the other side. And this will be the most complex part of the look for what it's worth. Eyes are always, they're like the smallest area, but they take the longest. So I'm gonna go in for one more layer on each side. Again, I'm really just trying to get it into that crease in that outer half. And then I might actually make this brush a little bit smaller. You can make them a little bit more pointed, which I love. And I'm just going to pull a little bit of that darker shade on the jelly shadow out on top of that bronzer that I kind of started to pull up. I'll make it bigger to buff anything out. Again, I just want to start to subtly build a little bit of shape, a very soft wing. So we'll do the other side. And then anything left over, I'll just put directly on the lid. And I always tell people, like, trust the process, the look will come together. I'm gonna take the shimmer from two of these and kind of mix them. So this is Staycation, and this is Jelly, the one that I used, the shade in my inner corner. I'm gonna kind of build a dark to light shimmer. So this one's a little bit deeper than this one. I'm gonna use my finger to pick it up, and I'm gonna disperse this shimmer shade in the middle of my eye, and we're just gonna get the product down for now. So on both eyes, right in the middle, and then I'm gonna take the shimmer on this one, use my pinky finger, and I'm gonna get that lighter shimmer shade in the inner corner. So we're kind of going light to dark. This is gonna bring some focus to the inner eye, but it'll kind of naturally go outward into this very soft, kind of neutral, smoky eye. So we have that down with my finger, but I am gonna go in with the other side of that brush, and I'm just gonna buff kind of like the line that would have connected these two together, evenly and naturally flow into that outer corner. And then I'm just gonna clean up anything that came a little too far in. This is nice, but I do want a little bit more of a punch with that shimmer. So I'm actually gonna go back into the Jelly Duo. I'm gonna do one more pass at that inner corner, and I'm really gonna try to pat it onto the skin, and let's leave it there. If we want to add more toward the end of the look, we can, but I want to make sure that shimmer really shows. So this is a new eyeliner that I got from Sephora. It's a brown liner, which I personally enjoy a brown liner a little bit more than black liner. I think depends on what you're going for. I guess New Year's Eve, you could go all out easily and use a black eyeliner. It's a pencil liner. It's not light. It's brown, but it's not, it's not like a beige brown. It's more of a deep brown. So I've been really gravitating toward pencil liner recently. Gel and like liquid liner take a lot of the spotlight, but I love pencil liner because it is so much more easy to manipulate and move around once it's down. A very light first pass of the shade down, and you'll notice I'm not going out of my lash line yet. I'm kind of stopping it at that outer corner, and I'm just taking it on its side, dragging it along my lash line, and I'll come in a little farther than normal because this is like a bit of a punchier look. Usually with top liner, I don't like to go all the way in. Just for my eye shape, I think it can make them look a little smaller. So I'm bringing it about 2/3 of the way in. I'm kind of stopping it at that inner third that we talked about. Now that that's down, I'm gonna go back in to my eyeshadow brush, and I'm just going to very, very lightly diffuse it. So I already put such a light layer down, like this actually probably isn't absolutely necessary, but I just like to do this to soften any harsh lines or edges, and it's a nice way to get that base down. And now I can go one more take and be a little bit more intentional with it. So I'm just gonna pack one more layer on. I'm gonna keep most of this on the outer half here. And then I'm gonna just start to trace my wing. And I always say, keep your eyes open when you're doing this. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You can see I have some spaces there, but I want to now connect that line with the lash line that we did. And that way, when the eye is open, it's gonna look more full. Do that on this side. And we're going to really diffuse that wing line that we started to pull out. Again, trust the process. So this is where we're gonna go back in with our concealer to clean ourselves up. I'm actually gonna take that flat brush and apply it directly to the product this time. And I'm just going to gently sweep that product underneath my liner. Not only will this diffuse any fallout, but it'll actually pull a little bit of that pencil product out with it. So let's do some mascara. If you have a lash curler, now would be the time to use it. I actually don't have one with me right now. And we'll do the rest of the face, and then we will use a Q-tip at the end to clean up the eyes even more. Notice that I didn't put anything on the bottom lash line either yet. I don't like to do that until the end because I noticed that if I do it too soon, it can kind of end up slipping. And I have a trick that I will show you for how to make that stop. So this is what it looks like so far. You can really see that shimmer in the inner corner. So let's build the rest of the face now. And I like just building my bronzer in very soft circular motions, up and down the cheek. I start right here and I pull it down to about midway. I'm in the shade Latte. And because it's New Year's Eve look, I'll probably add a couple layers. Usually I just do one pass of bronzer, but we'll give this a little extra pop. Pulling some of that bronzer down to my jawline. I'm gonna get up behind the back of my jaw and up into my ear area. And now let's go in with some lip and cheek. I'm using the shade Terracotta Tour Guide. I think this shade is just really pretty. Oh, let me do my trick. I've been doing this L trick to find my blush placement. I saw some creator do it and I just can't stop doing it. I'm gonna put the excess on my lips for now. And then I'm actually gonna go back in with that flat brush. This is also such a good blender for the cream lip and cheek. So I'm just gonna start in the middle, then buff it up. And again, because it's like a holiday look, I think giving a little more blush, a little more pop than normal is appropriate and okay. So if you like blush, but you feel like it's too much day to day, use this as an excuse to add it. Just take your time blending it. I think when you don't blend it out is when it can look a little much, but it can look really nice if you take your time. New Year's Eve reminds me of sparkle. So we're gonna have to add some highlighter. I'm gonna use the Rosé Cream Highlighter here and put it right on top of where we put the blush to hit the top points of my face. I'm gonna use my finger at first, but I'm gonna go back into that flat brush. This has been like my favorite multi-use brush from the new brush set. And I'm just lightly kind of tapping that product into the skin. Because we've been using it so much, I am going to do a pass on the brush cleaner, the dry brush cleaner, because I do want to do one more pass at the concealer, and then we will set, and then we'll finish up the bottom of the eye. Let's go in with a little bit more concealer. I'm using, I don't think I shared before, 002C. Now I'm really intentionally going to place this concealer first with my fingers here, just for that final little bit of cleanup so that the wings can even out a little. And because we use that pencil liner, it might move a bit, but I personally like that, so it's not so harsh. So any extra I'm gonna put back under the eyes, and then I'm gonna take that brush just to buff out. Now I'm gonna go into my Shine Control powder. So this is another shadow brush that comes in the Subtl kit. I'm actually gonna use this brush to set my under eye. Because it's so pointed, I really enjoy using this for really precise setting. And I'm just gonna get it, the inner corners first, and then I'm gonna get it right under where we put that product to clean up the under eye, and then anything left over I'll put in the middle. I like to focus my powder in the inner and outer corners of my eyes, because the more product you put in the under eye area, the more creases you will see, which, it's kind of natural, it makes sense. And then if you get oily or you're experiencing any oiliness, you can go ahead and, put it elsewhere. But powder can also be a really nice diffuser for shadow looks that maybe, came out too far, or edges that you want to clean up. Now that that's done, I'm really just gonna do my eyebrows and then my lips, and then I think we're done. I like to brush my brows down so I can really see like the outline of the shape. And then I just kind of like drag the pencil back and forth. It can be a little messy, and then I will put push the brows up with the spoolie. I'm gonna bring very light strokes toward the inside of the eye, just to hold the brows in place. So I am gonna use my own lip liner just to give a little bit of extra definition. And then I'm gonna go back in with the Terracotta Tour Guide shade. And then if you need to clean up at all, take our favorite brush. Oh my gosh, I completely forgot to show you what to do with the under eye. My bad. The trick is that because I put a little bit of powder down already, it's actually gonna be easier for my bottom lash line like not to bleed. I think sometimes I see clients and they're like, anytime I put product under my eyes, it like bleeds down into my skin and it falls and I have to wipe it away. I find that putting the powder down first kind of gives it like it like catches it. There's no greasy, moisturized or like wet base for the product to kind of cling to. So I like to do it when it's in a bit more of a drier state. So I'm just pulling that same eyeshadow pencil that I did the top line with, and I'm just gonna bring a little bit of it down underneath, and I'm honestly just using my finger to kind of even that out. So I'm not going in the lash line, I'm going out and under the lash line. And if you want, you can pull it up to kind of connect to that wing that we built, but it's really personal preference. I think it looks a little bit more punchy in the eye with that bottom liner, and it depends on your eye shape, especially if you're more mature. I don't always think bottom liner works on people. I think it can bring the eyes down, but if you want a more like sultry look, I definitely think it's okay to add a little bit on that outer part. So that's the whole look. I hope you all enjoyed. I know that this tutorial was a little bit more in depth than normal, but I really wanted to show you some techniques to create a more elevated, more glam look for New Year's Eve. So I hope everyone has a safe and happy New Year's Eve. Happy early 2024. I'm so excited to start fresh, and we'll definitely be back with more subtle tutorials and videos right here on their YouTube channel. If you liked this, definitely subscribe and stay tuned for more content.